Hello, we want to factor x squared plus 4x minus 21. The best way to start trying to factor is the same way we talked about in the last problem, and that is to assume that the factors are going to be in this form: x plus or minus some number times x plus or minus some other number. Now, this is not always true, but it could be a good starting place. It is a good starting place. And then if it turns out not to work, then you can try other methods that we'll talk about in other problems. But for simple factoring, often this method works. Before we go any farther, I want to explain some other terms I'm going to use. I'm going to rewrite the problem down here. X squared plus 4x minus 21. This right here is our x squared term. The coefficient on it is 1. The coefficient is the number that the x term is multiplied by. This here is our x term. Its coefficient is 4. And this here is the x, I'm going to call it the x to the 0 term, because there is no x associated with it. Its coefficient is negative 21. Now when you're factoring, there are basically two questions you want to ask yourself. The first one is, what are the factors of the x to the 0 term's coefficient? Or in other words, which two numbers can I multiply together to give me the coefficient on the x to the 0 term, which in this case is negative 21. The sign doesn't really matter in this step. Well, for this problem, we could either use 21 and 1, because 21 times 1 is equal to 21, or we could use 7 times 3, 7 and 3, right? Because 7 times 3 is also 21. Are there any other possibilities? Nope, I don't think so. Okay, so we know the numbers that are going up here in these blanks are either 21 and 1 or 7 and 3. The second question that you want to ask yourself is, of our possibilities, how could they add or subtract from each other to give you the coefficient on the x term? Which in this case is positive 4. Is there any way that 21 and 1 can be added or subtracted together to give you 4? Well, 21 minus 1 is 20. 21 plus 1 is 22. 1 minus 21 is negative 20. No, there's no way. There's no way that these two numbers could ever be added or subtracted to give you positive 4. What about 7 and 3? Well, 7 plus 3 is 10, but 7 minus 3 is 4, which is what we're looking for, which is good. So we know that 7 and 3 are going to be the numbers that we put in the blanks. I'm going to rewrite this. Put our 7 and our 3. The order, or which one goes in which, doesn't really matter. Okay, now the only question left to answer this, to have this completely factored, is to determine which signs we put here and here. Do we want a positive sign, or do we want a negative sign? Do we want addition or subtraction? The way to figure that out is to look at the sign of the x to the 0 term's coefficient. Which in this case is negative. Okay? If it is negative, then you're going to want a plus and a minus, right? Because when you multiply a positive and a negative number together, that gives you a negative answer. If the sign of the x to the 0 terms coefficient is positive, then you're going to want either two pluses or you're going to want two minuses, because when they're multiplied together they'll give you a positive result. So in this case we want one of each, so we're going to use an x plus 7 and an x minus 3. The reason why we put the plus in front of the 7 and not the 3 is because when we use FOIL, you can check this, that'll give us a plus 4x instead of a minus 4x, which is what we wanted if you look up here. Okay, so now we have our answer. The two factors of our original expression are x plus 7 and x minus 3.